Hey guys, welcome to Fantasy Effect episode 78 Crystal Ball Predictions. We're presented by Fantasy Football Infinity. Just a few new things for us. We're no longer like underneath Dynasty Theories, now our YouTube channel, the Fantasy Effect channel. So welcome in. If you guys are first timers here, please like, comment, subscribe, whatever you want to do. We do have a free Discord now, and also if you're interested in that Discord, DM us on Twitter. It's at Ronald Cavalier, at Jay Lebowski TRM, and at Holler Jono. There's a lot of L's in there, so check on the YouTube channel to get all the L's for Holler. And like I said, we also have a Patreon now too. How's it going tonight, guys? Holler and McSpanky with me.
Doing well, yeah. The Patreon's really cool. You should definitely check it out. We have Dynasty and Devi tiers. We also have a Dynasty tool that we have that kind of helps give you kind of a look at all of your leagues and rosters. It's really kind of neat. So definitely come check it out. If not, definitely come check out the Discord. We've been having awesome conversations in there. We have a trade channel that's always booming. It's a good time. There's a lot of good people in there, so definitely hit us up there and let's keep these good conversations going. But we're a week away from the season, boys.
Let's go. Yeah, I'm ready.
Sir.
9 days, 10 days. What is it? 8 days. Oh boy, I'm behind. Let's go.
Yes, sir. I'm stoked. Our Discord is alive and well, and it's a lot of fun.
Yes.
We try to keep everybody up to date with all the news. There's other people in there that help us out with that as well. So it's awesome.
Definitely. Like I said, please join the Discord. Don't join the YouTube chats. Mitch is out in these names here. Anyway, should we get into the news a little bit here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So we got the Packers running backs on the shelf. A.J. Dillon, season-long IR. Marshawn Lloyd not on PUP, but he's not ready to go. See, I was under the understanding that he was on IR/PUP. Like, that happened, and then all of a sudden Dillon went on to IR, and then everybody's like, wait, Marshawn Lloyd is not on IR. He's on the 53-man roster. What happened there?
I don't entirely know what happened, but he is on the 53, which is relevant because that tells me that they think he is closer to returning than the 4 games that he would miss on the PUP. So it seems like maybe he's closer to returning than we think, which is good news.
And I think possibly having that A.J. Dillon land on the season-long IR is maybe they think, hey, he's going to miss a week or two instead of the full 4 weeks. Marshawn Lloyd, that is. So I think, that's probably where it's at. They don't want to have to put him on the PUP. And then because outside of Josh Jacobs and Marshawn Lloyd, they have, I think his name's Emmanuel Wilson. So, nobody really. I'm assuming they'll go out and get somebody. There's not really, to me, in my opinion, there's not really anybody, Samaje Perine went to the Chiefs. That was one that could be pretty good. There's a couple other ones, Michael Carter, but I just think, in my opinion, there's really nobody else. So wheels up for Marshawn Lloyd.
Yeah, the Cowboys are signing all the running backs. So
yeah, good or bad,
not good ones, but they are signing.
Yes, they are.
Get in line.
We also have Kendre Miller on the IR. He's going to miss a minimum of 4 games. It kind of sounded like before the season he was going to miss the entire season, whether he was healthy or not.
Yeah, Dennis Allen hates that dude. I don't know what Kendre Miller did to him or his family or loved ones or whatever happened, but my God, I've never seen a vendetta like that before between a coach and a player.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of surprised that he did not get cut or traded, or just how much he despises Kendre Miller. I think a fresh start would have been nice for Kendre. I think he's a good running back, but obviously he's seeing something that he doesn't like. So because
he's not seeing anything.
Yes, but I feel like a broken record. But outside of Alvin Kamara, there's nobody there. And there's Williams, but he's washed up in my opinion.
Yeah, he's not good.
So I just that's not good in my opinion. So maybe he'll get right, and then Kendre Miller will be on the field, but I don't know for sure.
Hopefully, I think he's good still, but his days are numbered if he doesn't totally to do something. Like even with the new coaching staff, like who's to say like that would be a new coaching staff that didn't draft him or have any part in taking him, and so who's to say they don't want to just go get their own guy, right? And so he's got to show something at some point, otherwise they're gonna move on and let someone else figure out if he's good or not.
Obviously, just rumors, but I did read something. I think it maybe was last week or the before that he could possibly, like this was probably a hope situation, but landed the Cowboys, which I felt like would have been a good place for Kendre Miller and actually better than Dalvin Cook. But he's on the Saints and he's on the IR. So
yeah, probably not gonna expect too much of Kendre Miller right now. So
totally. I would say he's a surefire RB1 just from like the numbers per se. I think
sheer volume.
I think Taysom Hill is going to take away some of those touchdowns, unfortunately, which sucks for fantasy. But I think, overall, he's the second best option there outside of Olave.
So the comment in the chat was Alvin Kamara is a surefire running back 1 this year. I think for sure, and actually it's good timing because I was working on a little something for later in the week, and Alvin Kamara was a guy I was researching. You guys know he had 86 targets last year, and granted he missed 4 games off of suspension. And it's because Derek Carr is a check down king. So and there's no one else there. Kendre Miller's on the shelf. Jamal Williams blows. Sorry, Ron. I know he was a
Well, I always knew
but
what Jamal was, and it was the Detroit Lions offensive line that made Jamal Williams what he was.
Yeah,
I think Jamal Williams is probably still a fine running back, but he does not have the offensive line down in New Orleans that he had.
Yeah, totally. Like when he went to the Saints, I thought he'd be like, oh, super good, but no, totally. He was good because of that offensive line.
And that offensive line's horrible in Detroit, in New Orleans, and they're starting a rookie at left tackle who's never played left tackle in his to this point in his career. He's always been on the right side, which is not awesome.
They lost Ramczyk, correct, for the season.
Yes,
that was the big loss. That was like their All-Pro, Pro Bowl. Yeah, like it's a bad medical situation.
Yeah, he's dead. So.
Yeah, but like you guys mentioned, the targets for Alvin Kamara stacked on top of the carries with nobody else. Like, as long as the health is good, man, there's nothing stopping Alvin Kamara, even in a poor offense. I think he still probably has enough juice left to give you a running back 1 season.
I have him on a team that I'm trying to ship off assets, and like people just want to buy him for, like, Jeff, you got him for a second. That's awesome. But I don't want to sell for a second. I want to wait till he has a couple of good games and actually get some good return for him. So, I think my team's bad enough that he's basically my only player left. And so that'll score good points at least. And so I think, I can wait it out a little bit.
Yeah, when people log in and they get a trade offer for Alvin Kamara and they pull up his little profile and they see like a running back 3 on the season, that sure helps your negotiation.
Totally.
Trades.
Definitely. Yes, it does. Okay, so we got some more camp news. CeeDee Lamb gets a new deal. Pretty expected here. I don't think that there was I didn't really doubt that the Cowboys weren't going to pay him, but it was very odd how long that it took. They could have snuck in, under some other wide receiver numbers there.
They ended up paying through the teeth on him. That's kind of what the Cowboys do. They just kind of wait and then they pay top dollar. They've done this kind of that's kind of that whole MO. So we'll see. But awesome for CeeDee Lamb. I know he came in at like 34 million APY, which is second only behind Justin Jefferson, which I think is about right. I think he is actually. I mean, he's right up there with JJ, right? So this is awesome. It's awesome for Dak, because if CD wasn't out there, Dak would have been in shambles. This is really good for the Cowboys offense in general, because their running game is going to look a lot different with the cast of backs they have back there. CeeDee Lamb, I don't think there's anything stopping him from being, the wide receiver 1 again, or if not, just the top 5. But
easily. Yeah, it's the same argument we just had with Kamara. It's just sheer volume, man. It's literally Lamb, Ferguson, and then Brandon Cooks. And if Jalen Tolbert is actually a thing, he may or may not be, but camp, I don't know. There was camp hype that happened at one point in time. I picked him up off the waivers just in case. For free, I guess I would take the shot. That's about it.
Totally. I don't think outside of those three guys you said, would it be much in Dallas? So
No, not at all. Okay, so up next we got Jamar Chase. He came back to practice. Zach Taylor said that we expect him here on out at practice.
Oops.
The next day he was not at practice. It has now been reported that it's also a day-to-day situation once again. What do you guys think about this for Chase? Do you think this?
That's
matters?
wild to show up to practice and then just be like, see what you guys are missing? Yeah, pay me. Which I think is what this was, right? That's crazy. I feel like he's gonna play. Like I don't feel like he's gonna actually miss games, right? Like, do you guys think he's gonna miss any games? No, Ayuk the next one. I think that's.
So I mean, he sat out that entire COVID season.
That was in college. That was a little different.
I know a little different, but like we're getting dangerously close here. I don't know. Can his old buddy Joe Burrow talk him off the ledge and get him into camp and just say, let's do this and then we'll get you paid kind of thing? Or because also, it's widely known how cheap Cincinnati is as a franchise and paying their players and how they've treated some of these guys, in the past. So what can we possibly expect?
To pay one of the best wide receivers in the league, especially when the quarterback you just paid is like best friends with them. I think this is a no-brainer. But
yeah,
I don't know.
So,
I don't want an NFL team, so
I agree. I don't think he's going to miss games, and I think we kind of saw it with CeeDee Lamb. Kept going back and forth. He's not going to return until he gets paid, and so I think I'm. This is probably more hope than anything, but I think he's going to get paid. I'm a little worried in per se redraft than anything.
That's what I was just going to say.
So if he does miss any games, the biggest issue is in redraft versus dynasty. Obviously, in dynasty you want him out there and you want him to play, but if you miss a couple games there, it's not a big deal. But in redraft, like the benches are much shallower, and you want your best players playing every single week. So I think at the end of the day, I know we're coming down to it only a week until the season starts, but I do think he's going to end up playing week 1.
I hope so. My concern is that if he doesn't practice at all and then just shows up and tries to play a game right away, the risk for injury is a lot higher.
Yeah,
definitely. Concern. And that's where I think most of my concern is too. I think already you said it well, right? It's in redraft. In dynasty, it is what it is. Like he'll come back and he'll be fine. But in redraft, you have 12 teams trying to compete, whereas in dynasty, there's usually at least 2 or 3 that are kind of sitting back trying to rebuild. So you have less competition for points. And in a redraft, that just tanks your season because there's no next year except for starting over again.
Yeah, totally. So we'll see. I think, like I said, I think it gets done, but I think he may end up say he plays week 1. It might be a little slow going if he misses a couple more days of practice.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, getting down to the wire. Another guy coming down to the wire is Brandon Ayuk. He was expected to practice today. Once again, he did not practice, walks off the field without pads. And I believe John Lynch has basically come out and said, listen, at some point he has to play.
That situation seems messed up.
That's rage.
There's some bad blood on both sides. I think in Cincinnati, that's more of I feel more confident they're going to get a deal done. The Ayuk thing is dude, I don't know what's going to happen, but I could realistically see Ayuk sitting out and not playing until he gets a dime, right? So, that's the one that he terrifies me. And in redraft, this is best ball, so it's a little different. I'm in a best ball mania draft right now, a slow one, and he was going at the top of the second round. I was just on the clock at 3:03, and he was still there, and I passed on him because I was like, I am terrified of this one. So his value is falling.
Dude, it is super terrifying. I had somebody tried to sent me an offer for Ayuk of a first at one point, and I thought I was contending, and I thought his first could be mid to late-ish, and I still go back and think about that one. Maybe I should have explored that a little more, seeing if I could get a little bit more added to it. He's still so good at football, though, is the problem. When he's on the field and not doing this is the issue.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we have a receiver every year where it's just some kind of shenanigans where they're just like receivers have that kind of that stereotype of being divas, and they're just like, I'm not doing anything till I get my money. And then, Antonio Brown comes to mind, and some of these
Right.
guys who just kind of went a little crazy. And it's like, they're all talented, but I mean, they're right. Like, at some point you do have to practice and play. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I can see him sitting out, but then I can also see him coming back, because I think, I don't know if it has already started or not, but he's going to have to pay a fine, right? And so obviously it's not like this huge fine, but I think, you gotta at some point kind of stick it out and play. And so I could see it going both ways. I'm with you, Spanky, a little bit, leaning towards that he would hold out. He seems the type of guy that would be just kind of stick his feet down on the ground and say, no, pay me or I'm not playing.
Yeah, he's to a point where I'm not touching him in redraft, and then in Dynasty, I'm not trying to acquire him. If I happen to have him, he's gonna hang out on my roster till we figure out what's going on. Because any kind of trade you do now, you're getting just pennies on the dollar, right?
Yeah, exactly. Also in 49er land, just real quick, Trent Williams has also said he will not step on the field until he has another deal. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but there is a drastic difference for Brock Purdy when Trent Williams is not on that field. That is for sure, like pretty shocking difference for Purdy.
Go figure. The best left tackle in football isn't on the field, and the quarterback play goes down. So
right. The wild man at quarterback isn't looking so good anymore.
I know the 49ers are super good, but to me they have just a lot of lingering issues. Like
There's
obviously most of it's stemming with contract issues, but it's just there's some issues there, and I think something's going to happen this year that they're not probably they will make the playoffs, but I just don't think they're going to make the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, I agree, and I mean their offensive line is why they didn't win the Super Bowl last year, and that was with Trent Williams, right? They had injuries, they had just kind of that offensive line seems like that's kind of their like an afterthought with all their skill players, which is you can get away with it when you have the best left tackle in football anchoring your line. When that doesn't happen, it's a lot harder to skate around some of these inefficiencies that you have, and it might result in Kittle having to stay in the block more. Have to have CMC do some little chips on his way out into the backfield. Like it has lingering effects besides just I guess we're gonna take a step back in terms of our blocking, but it has some other altercations.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree. Also, in some much stranger news than I thought I would see this week, Kyren Williams will be returning punts for the Los Angeles Rams. Holler, as the resident Rams fan here, tell us what you know.
So I know Spanky's going to have some numbers, but he did return some punts at the beginning of last year. I just think the way Sean McVay, puts his offense together, he puts the best players in, spaces for the team will succeed, right? And I just think outside of, there's a couple of guys like Tutu Atwell and Little Whittington. I think they both could have, I think they both could have returned punts, but he hasn't seen it, right? And so he knows what Kyren can do. They saw it last year, and I think we already knew that he loved Blake Corum. They took him in the 3rd round. Blake Corum didn't play a snap in the preseason. If rookies are not playing a snap in the preseason with Sean McVay as your coach, you're showing what you can do in practice. And so to me, that's the biggest thing with Blake Corum, not this hearing that Kyren's going to return punts, right? And so overall, though, I don't think this is a huge deal. I know their defense is not going to be anywhere near as good. They lost Aaron Donald. They just traded away Ernest Jones. So they did get some good pieces in the rookie draft or in the draft, excuse me. And so I don't know. I wouldn't read too much into this.
Yeah, I'm not worried about this at all. So we actually had you touched on it, right? So weeks 1 through 3 last year, Kyren returned 100% of the team's punts. His weekly PPR finishes those weeks were running back 9, running back 1, running back 28. His touches on offense were 15, 20, and 12. And those 3 weeks, he was 4th in fantasy points per touch. So he was really efficient with those touches too. So I think there's a problem there. Like, I'm really not that worried about it. I think it got kind of blown out of proportion where people were like, there's that rookie hype of Blake Corum, and everyone wants, the rookie to get in there and get touches. And then it almost seemed like a devotion where it's like, oh, we're going to put Kyron on the field. So, he's going to get punts. But if the whole interview and the whole context, they said like, oh, like we feel confident that, Corum and Ronnie Rivers can spell Kyron when needed, as opposed to just being like, yeah, like we're not really happy with where we're at. So we're going to just throw Kyron out there on punt returns and see what happens. Like, I think it's much ado about nothing. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's August and we're waiting for football, and every storyline just like, oh my God, what's happening? And we're just kind of blow out of proportion. So I wouldn't get too worked up about it. And I actually tried to acquire some Kyron today, which didn't go particularly well, but the attempts were there.
And like you said, he didn't just specifically, pick out Blake Corum. He said Blake Corum and Ronnie Rivers, right? And so I think if anything, it's since they brought in Blake Corum, it's going to be good for Kyron. Kyron missed, I think, was 3 or 4 games last year. And so I think his volume is going to get cut back just a little bit, right? But I think that volume that he's going to have is going to be more, he's going to be more fresh. I think Kyron's going to be just fine. And I do think Blake Corum, I'll say it a little bit later, but I think Blake Corum is going to be useful as well.
Well, and Kyron's the best pass catcher out of the running backs on that team. So, like, even if he's getting less work, which we all knew he was going to get less work, right? Like, there's no way he could go through a whole season again getting 80-90% of the team's running back touches. It's just you're just not going to hold up. So I think he's going to get the valuable touches too, get kind of some of the passing work, and he's a really good red zone runner too. I know Blake Corum is as well, so I'm interested to see how they handle some of the inside the 5 carries. That'll be something I'm keeping an eye on this next this next weekend. But I think Kyron's going to be fine.
Yep. I'll touch on that later, but I think the whole offense is going to be just fine in terms of fantasy.
Agreed. And everything's always going to be fine with Matthew Stafford at the helm of an offense. That's for sure.
That's your boy.
I can tell you that. Yeah. I can attest to that one. There's a lot of teams that Matthew Stafford schlepped to 5 wins for the Detroit Lions. Anyway, do you guys want to get into some of these trades for Kyron, or are we going to pop down to this crystal ball?
Let's go to the crystal ball, I think.
Okay. Alrighty. So, you guys want to start with one of the cover guys?
Yeah, for sure. Why don't you hit yours first, Ron?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know which one of my guys is on the cover.
It's Drake May.
My goodness.
Oh, my Lord. Okay. Well, that's why I was trying to throw it to you guys so I could figure it out, but here we are. No big deal. So one of my crystal ball deals is I have Drake May beating out Jacoby Brissett and starting off week 1 as the starter. This was a lot more hot takey when I messaged it to you guys in the DMs, I think, because it was during that week 3 preseason game. I'm sitting there, watching it. I watched Brissett the week before and just like, he looks like Brissett, like Brissett's fine. He can operate the offense and like he can do things. But like Drake May is out there like running around, throwing, he's throwing stuff across his body on the move. And like the stuff is accurate too. There's a couple times where you can tell, I think he's a little bit overexcited and he sails one here or there, but he's also a rookie, and for what the Patriots season probably is going to be, like, I think you're okay with him having those hiccups this year out there on the field, get him out there to learn. And I know that they had spoke about, not putting him out there and getting him ruined behind this offensive line. I think he might be athletic enough to where it doesn't totally matter as much as we've been saying. And I know he was out there against backups, but he still went out there and he did the thing and he looked like he should have been on a field with starters. What he looked like in the week 3 game. And they talked to Gerard Mayo. I believe it was coming out of like the half or whatever. And he's like, they are like, what'd you think of Drake May? And he's like, oh yeah, he looked really great. Drove us down for a touchdown, did this, that, the other, blah, blah, blah. I sound super excited. They're like, what about Brissett out there? And he's like, well, he got us a first down. And like, right when he said that, I'm like, dude, like Drake May is starting for this team. Just like out of the energy that I kind of felt from old Gerard Mayo, what he said on the sideline, and the past few weeks, the drumbeat's kind of been building for Drake May, learning more in practice. He's not making the same mistakes over and over and over, which, you love to see that he's learning from his mistakes. I don't know. I just think his ceiling is so much higher for what he can do for this team than what Brissett can do. Like, it's already evident in the preseason. You know what I mean? Like, Brissett goes out there and throws a interception or a 2-interception game. Like, people are just going to be pounding the table. Like, let's just throw Drake May out there. Like, Brissett has zero room for error at this point, and he has a shoulder injury now too.
Yeah, I don't think the shoulder injury was too big. It sounded like he could have come back in if that was like a regular season game and they needed him. I'm curious though, Ron. So as the resident Drake May fan, what do you expect out of him for the season? So I know you think he's going to start week 1, but what are we talking here?
Oh,
is he QB1? Is he pulling a CJ Stroud and just lighting the world on fire?
He's not going to CJ Stroud it and light the world on fire. He's throwing to Jalen Polk.
Cut you into that.
KJ Osborne. Like, I think we're going to see enough flashes from Drake May across the season that we're going to be excited for him going into his sophomore campaign. And I think his value is either going to sustain or move higher than what it actually is. Because I think he was kind of disrespected during the drafts just because of the arrival of Jaden Daniels in the season that he put together in LSU.
Sure.
I think Drake May's pass catchers, were really bad at North Carolina. Not that they've gotten much better in the NFL, but he at least has pro caliber receivers. And there's Demario Douglas and Kendrick Bourne has done some things at times. And there's some useful guys. Like, there's no superstar on that team. He's got the Hog Daddy at tight end too.
Hog Daddy.
Yeah, baby, Hog Daddy. And he's just the rushing ability, man. And really, go turn on that week 3 game and tell me you don't see, somebody that excites you out on that field playing.
Okay, so one, I'm gonna agree and disagree with you. One, some of those throws he made very impressive. 2, he was playing against the worst team in the league's backups. So he looked good. He looked like he could do it. I want to see
pump the brakes
against somebody actually, with a pulse that he's playing against, right? But he did look good. So I have him. It's funny. I'll just talk about how much I hate Drake May. I actually have him above market. I have him at quarterback 17, and whereas the market has him at QB 18. So kind of funny. I don't know, man. Like, are you going out and are you going to try to acquire more? Do you expect him to?
I think my rostership is at a point where I probably don't need to go acquire any Drake May because he was so disrespected in Superflex drafts. You were able to get him, kind of late.
Especially if I was in that league.
Yeah. You were taking old JJ McCarthy there.
I'll stand by that.
I have 22% Drake May across all of my rosters, so I'm kind of maxed out at Drake May already. 20% is kind of that number I like to stay at. But also, I think he would probably not easily acquirable, because the guy who probably took him is probably the Drake May truther in your league, just based off of what we're kind of saying here, how the draft went for him. But yeah, man, I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised with what this season that Drake May puts out there for us. That's what I'm getting from it. I think he's been slept on enough to where if he just, pops a little bit, it's like, oh man, like, what do we have here? Like, we all thought he was going to be complete garbage. So I think that's kind of worked out in his favor situation and how the hype has gone around him as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen with rookie quarterbacks, you need to show something. There's because if you have like the Bryce Young kind of rookie season, you drop tremendously. Trevor Lawrence, who also didn't have a good rookie season, like, he showed enough like throws and like flashes where people were like, I'm not really going to drop him down too much. So even if the Patriots are bad, which they probably will be, if Drake May just kind of doesn't look awful and just makes, some good throws here and there, people will be like, all right, I can talk myself into it again. And then maybe next year they'll get some better talent around them. And, you can start to tell yourself more of a story of like why you can buy into it again. So I think he'll probably be okay. Value wise, I still don't think he's that good of a quarterback, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not all the way towards Ron. I'm not all the way towards you, Spanky. I was more a little bit on like JJ McCarthy. Actually, like, I'm kind of split across all except Caleb Williams, but I'm kind of split across the other 3 quarterbacks when I look at my rostership. I'm kind of a little higher on Jaden Daniels than you guys are. But I just think he's going to be like a solid QB2. There's not enough weapons there for him to really excite anybody. I think he's going to have some good games. He's going to have some bad games. To me, he's a really good passer. And we kind of saw that in the third preseason game. Of course, he was playing against whoever it is, but I still think you can kind of see the way he throws the ball. He does a really good job of that. And so I think that's going to propel him. And I agree. I think he's going to start week 1. I saw a tweet today that they've already decided on. Gerard Mayo's decided who.
Yeah, he's got to announce it. He's got to talk to the team.
I
thought they were going to announce before the show, and I was like, now I have no hot takes. If you know what I mean. Yeah. If they announce this before the show, what the heck?
Yeah. So, I think he's fine, right? I don't think there's any he has a very, in my opinion, has kind of a low ceiling, but a nice in my opinion, a nice floor of a QB2 guy. Unless they're able to get some weapons, then his ceiling could go up a little bit. But we saw his issues at in North Carolina, I think is where he was at, right? Mm-hmm. And so we saw his issues there. And so I still think he's got a lot of growing pains, right? He'll go through this year. The offensive line is not going to do any help. And so, to me, I think the biggest issue is the weapons there in New England.
Yeah, for sure.
And also his offensive coordinator's we've talked about it before. He's never run plays before. And so, or called plays, excuse me. So I think the whole team's going to have growing pains.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. How are you going to get into your game?
Next?
Let's do it. Big boy Malik Neighbors, number 1. I thought it was pretty cool. Spanky, you posted a tweet. They're going to unretire number 1 and allow Malik Neighbors to be number 1. And so I think, this has nothing against Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's going to be really good as well. But I think this year, he's off of the sheer volume, he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver on points per game basis, right? And so overall, I think he's going to be just a target machine. I know we have our reserves with Daniel Jones, so I don't think this is too much of a hot take, but I do think there's guys below him, or excuse me, that you would think are above him, but that I think he's going to overtake, like a guy like Brandon Ayuk. That's just one. But I just think overall, for me, he's going to, just get so many targets every week that I think he could easily get surpass 1,000 yards and be anywhere between 6 and 8 touchdowns, and anything more than that, we would really love it. I was looking at numbers last year, and it was around, I think 180. It just depends on the league, but it's just around 180 was top 10 points. And I totally think he could do that. Anywhere from 10 to 12 points per game is going to get him there, obviously. And so somebody that you can just set your lineup, put him in there and forget it. So for me right now, though, is a guy that's hard to buy. So he's kind of on I'm leaning towards the sell, right? Because you're thinking that you got him anywhere between the 4th to 6th pick, right? It's probably where you got him. If somebody had a really good quarterback situation, maybe he went in at 103, right? And so if your team is not quite there, I think you can get a lot for him right now, right? And if not, if you're worried, you want to feel like you can get more, is wait, right after maybe week 3, he has 3 really good games, or has one game where he scores 100 yards and 2 touchdowns or something like that, right? I think you can get yourself somebody pretty good, right? I saw Malik Neighbors for Puka in a league I had this week. With my love for Puka, I'm kind of, flip a coin there, right? I think they're in my rankings, they're right next to each other. So I think there's probably going to be regression with Puka. And then I think Malik Neighbors is going to kind of be the other way around, is he's going to put up a ton of points this year. Because I think, I'll talk about it later, but I think Cooper Kupp is all the way back. So I think there's going to be some regression with Puka. Another one I saw, Malik Neighbors for Sam Laporta with no premium. I'm smashing Malik Neighbors easily. And I feel like, to me, you guys said it as well. Yeah, I think that's a steal. This one is a bit more. I'm interested to see where you guys are on this one. So Malik Neighbors and Christian Kirk for Scary Terry, Brandon Ayuk, and Devonta Smith.
This felt like the Ayuk owner got scared and was like, all right, let me just get out of this, even if I'm basically selling for really cheap.
Yeah.
But also, I and while you were talking about it, I had a thought. It's like, so Malik Neighbors, he's already, he's a wide receiver 10 right now, basically, across, Dynasty Daddy and some of these other sites.
Mhm.
Realistically, do you see a world where he can jump up to that wide receiver 1 tier with, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, kind of in that range? Is that in his
Yes,
wheel of
but I
outcome?
think what's gonna like it's more of like up in the air is because how good is Daniel Jones going to be, right? Those other guys are tied with. Right now, we've seen it from Justin Jefferson, so he's kind of QB proof. I need to see it before I can say Malik Neighbors is QB proof, right? So
Sure.
I think it's a little bit. I could see it. He's got the talent. He's totally like he's a guy that could do it. But I still think we need to see a little bit more from Daniel Jones. It was not a good preseason. They didn't even score a touchdown, right? And so there's not much to we need to read into that or anything. But I still think that is a little bit worrisome. And so maybe he stays at that number 10 this year, and then next year they get themselves a quarterback in free agency or whatever. But I like Daniel Jones. I think he's going to be just fine. But I would say if he does not play up to par, I think that right there is kind of where Malik Neighbors is going to be. But I think it's like I said, I think he's going to be a top 10, 8 to 10 range at the end of the season by points per game.
I think it'll take him 2 years to get there to that.
You think so?
Because I think he has to. I think he'll hop up. I know like some people have him with Marvin Harrison. I have Sun God and Marvin Harrison tiered together, and then Neighbors is like slightly below in a tier because quarterbacks and things of that nature. But I think he has to hop up into that tier with Amon-Ra and Marvin Harrison after prove it year his rookie year. And he does it again, then he can probably get up into that stratosphere of Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb. Because it took Lamb a minute to get there, too. Like, Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase were pretty much immediately there. Lamb was kind of like, waffled. We were waffling
top 5
in and
year,
out.
though.
Yeah.
So on Dynasty Daddy, Malik Neighbors is wide receiver 9. Below him is Tyreek Hill, Drake London, Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave, Nico Collins, right? Those are just 5 guys below him. I don't see any of those guys leaping him unless
I have him over all those
some
guys.
people are. Yeah, I do too. Everyone's hoping Drake London has this crazy year. I still don't think he's gonna, leap above Malik Neighbors, right? So, but I could see him leaping Puka and AJ Brown if those 2 guys don't have have the season they should, right? So that would move Malik Neighbors up to wide receiver 7, and then above him is Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Amon-Ra, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, right? So I could see him jumping into the top 6.
For me, he's already basically there. So I have him tiered with St. Brown, Marvin Harrison, Puka, and Neighbors. They're all in one tier together, kind of that 4 through 7. And that's the reason I was asking, because I was like, if you want to acquire him, you're going to have to pay up for him like he's a like a wide receiver 4, basically, and then hope he gets there. And what I was going to say about Daniel Jones real quick, how quickly we turn on people. It was like about this time last year, people were acquiring Daniel Jones for like a mid-first, right? So it's not like he's always sucked, like we like to pretend like he has. Like he's been relevant, he's been good. Also, that preseason game, everyone focused on the 2 interceptions, which I get it, they were bad,
dude.
But outside of those
choice, good lord.
So hold on. So outside of those 2 throws, he was actually pretty good. He was actually pretty good. But however, the 2 interceptions did happen, and that's always kind of been his problem, is that 90% of the time he's good, he's fine, and then he just does these dumb things, like he fumbles the ball a ton, and he throws, he makes these decisions where you're just like, dude,
trips over the paint, the blade of grass is bent the wrong way.
I saw a highlight of that again the other day. But I think he's good enough to support Malik Neighbors. Is kind of what I'm getting at. Neighbors is by far the best player he's ever had to throw to as well. So
easily.
I think Jones will be fine. And I think Neighbors just I think he's got a top 5 season in him, and I think he could be the wide receiver 4 behind those top 3 guys by the end of the year. I believe in him that much.
Yeah. So I mean, if anything, I probably should have been a little more hot takey and say it was top 5 wide receiver, but I wanted to be kind of where he's at wide receiver 9. He better be a top 10 on points per
Yeah.
points per game basis. But I basically I'm just saying it's going to happen. And sky's the limit for him.
For sure.
Yeah. Definitely. McSpanky, who's your cover guy?
Yeah, Jonathan Brooks is the guy I want to talk about, and the take I took is I think by the end of the season he could be a top 5 dynasty running back. So here's kind of where I'm at with that one. So last season the Panthers, all their running backs combined. So if you took Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard and you just kind of squished them together into one running back, they basically averaged a little over 17 points per game, which would have been good for running back 2 on the season. Now I realize that kind of math is dangerous, right? And you can't just magically do that. However, I think the combination of Chuba Hubbard and Jonathan Brooks is so much better than Chuba and Miles Sanders, right? Jonathan Brooks actually has some juice.
One could say it's a measure of distance better.
Yes, you could. And then okay, so the other part of it too is sorry, this just got derailed. The Panthers spent so much money on offensive linemen this upcoming year. They spent, I think they set like the most money spent out of any of the 30 teams on their 2 starting guards, which I think is huge, right? Bryce Young, I think Dave Canales is there. I think the offense is going to look a lot better. Dave Canales, he said a couple of times, like, you're going to see how stubborn I can be at running the football. I think even if Chuba Hubbard gets a lot of run early in the season, I think it's only a matter of time before Jonathan Brooks comes in. I think we're looking at like week 3, week 4 return for him. So I'm thinking by about Halloween, Jonathan Brooks is going to be kind of taking over. And with the running back landscape, if you kind of look at it, like outside of Breece and Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Those are the top 3 guys. You got CMC, who's getting a little bit older. You got Jonathan Taylor, who we think is going to be good. He's been good before, but Anthony Richardson's there. How many goal line touchdowns does he kind of take away? Does that kind of taper off on Jonathan Taylor? Saquon's getting older. He's on a new team. There's room for Jonathan Brooks, like and dynasty managers in particular get very attracted to the shiny new thing. There was a point in time where DeAndre Swift was a running back 2 in dynasty. I think Jonathan Brooks is an all around really good runner. Right now we're kind of he's down at like running back 11 or 12, and I think that's mainly just because of the injury issue that he has. If he was fully healthy, I think he would be higher, and I think we're going to see a lot of improvement on that running game from Carolina. Last year, they were dead last in rushing touchdowns, 23rd in yards per attempt. I think we see just like scheme-wise and then off like talent-wise, we're going to see a huge jump there. And I think Jonathan Brooks is going to lead the way in a lot of that. So I think people are going to be surprised and are going to – so I kind of where I'm going with this is now's the time to acquire him, especially with him, the news of him starting kind of injured. His price is never going to be lower is kind of where I'm at with that.
Sure.
Yep. So I just looked it up. He can't come back until week 5 since I think he's starting on the PUP.
Okay.
So that's perfect. I think for me, like he's out running back 13 right now, and the guys ahead of him like James Cook, Isaiah Pacheco, Kenneth Walker, Kyron Williams. Nothing against Kenneth Walker but that's the one out of those guys I think is going to leap up a little bit. But I can see Jonathan Brooks easily being in the top 10 going into next season. And I think it's possible that he can get into the top 5. I love Devon Achane, but I think he's going to drop a little bit this year. Just, I think there's going to be a little bit of regression as well. And then, CMC getting older, Jonathan Taylor getting older. So I really like this call out, right? And I think right now is the time to acquire him. I think you can get him on a solid, like not going to be too expensive. I think in some rookie drafts, he was going at the back end of the first, and most of the time he was going in the beginning of the second round. So if you were able to get him already, good for you. But I just think I would go out and try to acquire him now, because each week, obviously, he's going to get more expensive, in my opinion.
Sure. Yeah, as he closes in on that return. The guard names you were looking for are Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis.
Thank you.
That the Carolina Panthers went and paid for. There's a little offensive line knowledge for everybody. I know you're dying for that.
That's why I tune in, baby.
Spanky, Jonathan Brooks or Josh Jacobs?
Brooks.
Okay.
Easily. I just pulled up a trade on Dynasty Daddy. Jonathan Brooks and a third for Rashad White. Free third for me.
That's a
Oh, I'm
smash.
sending Rashad White away so fast. Like this,
Yep.
like literally,
Honestly,
he had.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's just all the metric numbers behind Rashad White were just pretty god awful, and they just were kind of slamming him into a wall, and he was pure volume to get to that.
I think Jonathan Brooks, if you have a team where you are pretty likely to make the playoffs, I would be comfortable sending away my 25 first for him and hoping I can get Brooks for that, because
I was surprised to see
that
that
trade.
trade.
I have him tiered right now is the late 25 first. Go ahead, Holler. Sorry.
I was surprised to see that because I just called out Jonathan Brooks at running back 13 and Rashad White's down at running back 15. So free third right there, and yeah, I'm smashing Jonathan Brooks.
Hey,
so
you know who is slamming Rashad White's head against the wall last year, even with his poor efficiency metrics? The necromancer himself, Mr. Dave Canales.
Yep,
see, that could be Jonathan Brooks.
Yep,
right.
But
with better
efficiency. A better runner, yeah.
That's the hope. I really like Jonathan Brooks' tape. He would have been my running back. Or I think I still had him.
Honestly, there was
one ACL.
There was talk that if he was healthy going into the draft process, that he could have been a first round running back because the Jets liked him that much. So,
I think that was
nice.
possible.
Real nice.
I mean, he already went top 50. He was like 46, 47, somewhere in that pick. Wherever.
Yeah, it would have been very early in the second or was it the third? I can't remember.
It was early second, yeah.
Early second.
All right, Ron, give us another one of your guys.
Alrighty. Okay, so let's talk about Khalil Shakir. I think Khalil Shakir is going to out-target and out-produce Keon Coleman on the season. I think Keon Coleman is just going to be, red zone jump ball guy for Josh Allen this year. I think Keon Coleman has a lot of growth that needs to happen. All the metrics from his college profile bear that out. People can say what they will about, Jordan Travis got hurt and that's when Keon Coleman disappeared. Well, Marvin Harrison played with Kyle McCord his senior year, and he did not disappear on the field. I just think that, if you're good, it doesn't matter what quarterback is throwing you the ball, you're going to be good kind of thing. And, he does have the benefit. Keon Coleman does get the benefit of having Josh Allen, which probably has the possibility to prop him up a little higher than what I think Keon Coleman would actually be if he landed anywhere else in the NFL. But Shakir is also the only wide receiver to catch a pass from Josh Allen in a regular season football game. So, there's definitely some rapport there. And we saw all the Keon Coleman highlights from practice, this, that, and the other. But once it got to the preseason games and you're following the Twitter beat writers on, their feed. Oh, Keon Coleman just sits down in the zone. Josh Allen finds him once again. Khalil Shakir just sits down in the zone. Josh Allen finds him once again. It seemed to be on repeat kind of for Khalil Shakir. And I just think that's how they're going to matriculate the ball down the field with the running game as well. And Keon Coleman may see some touchdown boom bust kind of stuff throughout the season for you guys. But I think Khalil Shakir is going to be the wide receiver one.
I can see it. I'd like Shakir. I mean, I think it was week 11 when I'm blanking his name. Joe Brady took over for Buffalo. Shakir led the team in receiving yards from that point on. I know on like half the amount of targets that Stephon Diggs had. So, and I think Shakir's really good. And he's going to play in that slot role. Curtis Samuel's on the shelf, which helps. If you think back to Cole Beasley, and think about how valuable he was in his old crusty body, catching passes from Josh Allen in the slot. And Shakir's actually, athletic. So I think it's a good call. I know I've talked about Shakir quite a bit. And he's cheap, man. You can, I'd wager. I mean, maybe not now. It might have gone up, but usually about if you throw in a third for Shakir, you could probably get him. Maybe a third and a little extra.
I'd do a late two.
Now you might have to do a late two, and honestly, I don't hate it. Right? If you, that's a nice depth piece that you can throw in during bye weeks and injuries, and feel real good about it. So.
Right. Yep, I like to call it as well. I was kind of in on Curtis Samuel for most of the summer. I was thinking it was more going to be Curtis Samuel than Shakir, but I think Shakir is, especially with the injury, I think Shakir is kind of stepped ahead of Curtis Samuel, and so I like the call out. I think he's going to be their main wide receiver, and I think The other one's going to be Dalton Kincaid. So I think those are the two
Yeah.
big guys. I think Curtis Samuel will get his, but he's going to, like we've seen every single year, he's going to be on the shelf here and there. So,
In and out of the lineup.
Yep.
All right.
Samuel does.
Another rookie wide receiver for me, Brian Thomas Jr., but I have it the opposite way. I'm going to be kind of, I don't think he's going to return. Like, he's not going to return on his value. For me, I think he's going to be outside the top 24. I think for me, I have him down as a wide receiver 3, anywhere between 30 to 36. So that's just kind of on points per game. So I think Ingram and Christian Kirk are going to be the focal points of this offense. And I think he could have some boom or bust. But for me, I don't see it. We've talked about it before. I know I was kind of in on Brian Thomas in the beginning of the process. And then as I dove in a little bit more, I don't really love, he takes plays off. I know he's done like some good stuff in camp, but for me, I just think he is not going to return on his value right now. We saw it a couple days ago. I think the beginning of this week, he's all the way up at like 21, wide receiver 21 in keep trade cut, which we don't love, but if I look at him in Dynasty Daddy, he's up at the same thing, wide receiver 21, right? So for me, he's ahead of T. Higgins. I don't love George Pickens, but he's ahead of George Pickens, ahead of Rashee Rice, ahead of Michael Pittman, ahead of
crazy.
Xavier Worthy, Zay Flowers, Debo. So for me,
give me all of those guys straight up over him.
That's what I was just gonna say. I'll take any of those guys ahead of Brian Thomas Jr. For me, he's firmly a wide receiver 3. So if you can sell him right now, do not go out and buy him. He's super high. It's going to be super expensive. So a couple real quick. Bo Nix for Brian Thomas Jr. straight up was it was super flex. Start 11, 12 teamer. Give me Bo Nix
for sure.
Chris Godwin and Saquon Barkley for Brian Thomas Jr., Deontay Johnson, and Jaylen Warren. This one you're stealing, like that one's smash. Chris Godwin and Saquon Barkley. And then one more.
Yeah.
Brian Thomas Jr. and a second for Brandon Ayuk. I know we're a little worried about if Ayuk's going to play, but give me Ayuk.
For that, give me Ayuk.
Yep.
Yeah.
We talked about it in the Discord a little bit earlier today, but I was going back and looking at. So I have like an analytics model for prospects. Brian Thomas Jr. He was real feast or famine on those, like all the consistency type of metrics, like when you're looking at first downs and targets per route run and like yards per route run and those kind of things. He was well below average, but all the like the touchdown boom metrics, I mean, he smashed, right? So he's a big fast guy who runs great straight line speed. He doesn't run a ton of routes. And the comp I kind of had for him, which is funny because their teammates now, is Gabe Davis, right? Where I could see a lot of like does he have that 200-yard 3-touchdown game in him? Absolutely, he does. Does he have a lot of 4 catches for 27 yards? Yeah, he does. He does that too. So Brian Thomas is one of those guys where all throughout the draft process, I was very content to let someone else find out if he's good or not. Where I was kind of in that range, I was taking the Jonathan Brooks, Slide McConkey's, Xavier Worthy's, and just helping for the pass.
So it's funny. I wrote this a couple days ago, and then there was a best ball draft, and Brian Thomas was just sitting there. I think kind of late. I just took him. For me, like in a best ball redraft, like boomer bust guy. Go ahead. But this is, I know, like for me, for Dynasty, he's not going to return on that wide receiver 21 volume. So get out while you can.
Get out. All right. Another guy here I have. So Kyle Pitts. Stop me if you heard this before. This is the year for Kyle Pitts. I really think he's set up this year, man. This is the time it's actually going to happen. Right? I think for the first time in his NFL career, he is in a competent offensive scheme, not coached by Arthur Smith, which that alone already helps. Like he has his new offensive coordinator, Zach Robinson. He's a McVay disciple, coming out of LA. That same tight end, that same coordinator, obviously McVay was calling the plays, but that system, Tyler Higbee was a tight end 6 back in 2022 when Robinson was the passing coordinator there.
It's a very friendly offense for tight ends. It's a similar scheme to what Cousins ran in Minnesota, and Kirk Cousins has been awesome for tight ends. We're looking at weeks 1 through 8 before Cousins got hurt last year. TJ Hawkinson was the tight end 2 on the season in 2022 for the whole year. TJ Hawkinson also tight end 2 in 21. The Conk Daddy Taylor Conklin was tight end 16. He was third on the team in targets, so he was getting peppered. Obviously, Kyle Pitts is significantly better than Tyler Conklin, right? Irv Smith and Kyle Rudolph combined for like about 700 yards and 6 touchdowns the year before. And then if you go back to his Washington days, Jordan Reed was an awesome elite tight end, right? So Cousins really likes his tight ends, and outside of Drake London, who else is there to really take targets away from him? I mean, Bijan's going to get quite a bit out of the backfield, but really like Kyle Pitts is going to get used a ton, and I think he's athletically built like a wide receiver. And I know people are probably sick on getting burnt by Kyle Pitts, but if you could stomach it and buy back in, there's a realistic chance he could be the tight end 1 on the season. Like, he has all the talent in the world. He has a system. He has a quarterback for the first time. Yeah. Like, it's all aligned, and if he doesn't do it this year, you can write him off for good, right? But I think this is the year he's going to finally do it and put it all together. So I'm really excited for Kyle Pitts, and I think it's huge if you can buy him in a tight end premium league. Like, I think it's worth an overpay to get him, just because I think once people, it's one thing to, like, when guys have the potential to be like the top of their position, you can kind of talk yourself into high value, but once someone actually goes and does it, that takes their value to another level. So like, I'm comfortable overpaying, from market value today, in the hopes that it will be, better off. His value will be even higher this time next year, just because he's coming off a huge season. So
Kyle Pitts or Brock Bowers?
Kyle Pitts.
I also would like to talk to you about a timeshare, possibly.
Is that right? Let's do a quick presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the call out. I mean, we've heard about it. They're going to use him all over the field as a wide receiver, as a tight end. So, he's got the year. Yeah, he's athletic enough. I think it's a coin flip between Brock Bowers and Kyle Pitts. I think they're give me the guy that's tied to a better quarterback. How about that?
Yeah,
so Kyle Pitts,
and a better coordinator.
I mean, once things get figured out in Las Vegas and they get a quarterback, I think flip the coin.
Spoiler alert: we're gonna be waiting a while. Yeah, just an experience.
I'm glad you said this.
For me, give me Kyle Pitts. I like it.
Awesome.
All right. Should we hop into some more, guys? You guys, I
think
we're ready.
We could probably call it good there.
Yeah.
I think that was like, I think we gave a lot of good content there.
Definitely.
We mentioned at the top of the show, hit us up for the Discord link. Come in, chat with us. We're in there all the time. It's a good conversation. It's a really good community. We'd love to have you guys a part of it. If you like the video, make sure you come back and keep watching us. We love it. We're gonna have some cool content coming out this year. We really appreciate you guys tuning in and hope to see you guys keep coming back.
As the resident Ram lover, don't worry about Kyren. That whole offense is going to be awesome, right? That whole offense is going to be great. So don't worry about Kyren. So that's where I'm at.
In McVay, we trust.
Exactly.
Totally.
All righty.
See you guys.
We've said it all. See you guys.
Peace.